All right, so we are at the review. We have reached the end of Unit 14. The test will be posted tomorrow. You'll get one chance to do the test in a 2-hour window. You normally get 50 minutes, but you cannot log out of the test and get back in. You have to do it in one sitting. So what did we learn in this unit? We started with square roots of perfect squares. You should be pausing the video and doing these yourself, then seeing if you got them right. We learned there was positive square roots, negative square roots. We can ask for both the square roots. And we also learned that numbers that are not perfect squares make square roots that are irrational, that go on forever without a repeating pattern. You know the square root of 9, you know the square root of 900, but this is negative 30. In either order, if you're unsure of any square root, you can always check your work. This is how we write division. Always do your square roots first. This is how we write multiplication. Always do your square root first. Order of operations, multiplication comes before subtraction. Square roots and squaring cancel each other out. Doesn't matter what's in there. The square root of x squared is x. (44) is not a perfect square. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 144 is 12. Square root of 14,400, add a 0 to 12, 120. Then we started estimating square roots. You have to have the list of perfect squares memorized. 36 is the one below 44. 49 is the one above. So this is between, and you must write the word between, 6 and 7 on a number line. Square round to the nearest whole number. If you round it to the nearest tenth on the test and I ask for a whole number, you get it wrong. The perfect square below it is 64. The one above it is 81. It's 8 from 64 to 72. Ooh, it's 9. So square root of 72 is really in the middle of 8 and 9. That's a coincidence, by the way. Square root of 64 is 8. Square root of 81 is 9. So it is so very in the middle, but slightly closer to 8. Right? It would be right about there on a number line. So now it says round to the nearest tenth. So it's between 4 and 5. From 16 to 19 is 3. From 19 to 25 is 6. right? So it's clearly closer to 4. The question is it 4.2, 4.3, 4.4? It's one of those, right? 4.1 would be the square root of 17, right above 16. So I'm going to start with 4.3 and see how that is. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. All right, so 4.3 squared is 18.49. That's pretty close. If it wasn't a test, I might be good with that. Since now that's lower than 19, so I know 4.2 is no good, but I'm going to double check 4.4 because I have a test coming up and I want to make sure I get it right. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 4 is 16 plus 1. Yeah, 4.4 is 19.36. That's 36 hundredths away from 19. 18.49 is 51 hundredths. 49 plus 51 adds up to 100. So 4.4 is just a little bit closer. So it's 4.4 approximately, the nearest tenth. And so 1, 2, 3, 4. We would put square root of 19 right there on a number line. If square root of 19 equals 4.4, then this equals 4.4 plus 3, which is approximately 7.4. And so the square root of 19 plus 3 would go right about where 1, 2, 3, 4, square root of 19, 3 would go right there. So you must follow order of operations. Notice the plus 4 is not in the square roots. You do inside the square root first. You do your multiplying before your addition. So this is the square root of 123 plus whatever 4 is. Well, what's the square root of 123? It's some irrational number that goes on forever. But we know the square root of 121 is 11. So this is a little more than 11 plus 4. So the closest one has got to be 15. That's a little more than 11 plus 4. The irrational number here is the one where the number inside is not a perfect square. Square root of 1 is 1, square root of 16 is 4, square root of 36 is 6, square root of 8 is an irrational number that goes on forever. The only irrational number here is pi. These other things, 3.14 is not pi. It's a rational version of pi. Pi is the only thing there that goes on forever without repeating. This is the cube root of 1,000. Blank times blank times blank equals 1,000. Hopefully you realize that's 10. 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000. The cube root of 64 is 4. The square root of 64 is 8, because 8 times 8 is 64. But the cube root of 64 is 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 more is 64. You do not have to worry about this screen. It's not on the test. Oh, if you ever wondered what Mr. Ben's closet looked like, there it is. Do the practice problems. Square root of 64 is 8. The square root of 6,400 is 80. The negative square root of 4 is negative 2. The positive square root of 25 is 5. Negative 2 plus 5, positive 3. That's negative 5. That's a repeating decimal. That's 3 times 4, 12. The irrational one is the one with the irrational square root in it. This is between 9 and 10. That's all I asked here, although it's clearly closer to 9. So that means it's below 9.5. It's not 9.1 or 2. So this one would be 9.3 or 9.4 if you were doing it to the nearest tenth. Here's one to the nearest tenth. Do it before I do it. So it's clearly closer to 9 than it is to 8, right? But it's square root of 80 would be the one that's 8.9. I'm going to treat the good guesses would be 8.7 or 8.8. I'm going to guess 8.8 first. Let's see. You have to guess and then check. 8 times 8, 64. 70 with adding the 6. 64 again. 64 and 70. 77.44 is pretty close. There's no way it's 8, so it can't be 8.7 because that's lower than 78, right? We're lower than 78 with that. So if you go even lower, it would be even lower. You could guess 8.8 here, but I'll bet that, 8.9, but I'm pretty sure that 8.8 is the closest. And so square root of 78 would go right about there. The cube root of 8, blank times blank times blank equals 8. And final question. The negative square root of 64, negative 8 plus positive 2 equals negative 6. Good luck on the test.